The galaxy was always talking. Every day, every hour, every second, thousands of alien voices filled the space between stars. They shared news, made deals, and gossiped about their neighbors. Dr. Kim Hana put on her headset and listened to the endless chatter from her desk on Luna Station, Earth's first real step into the galactic community. Earth had been part of this cosmic conversation for 37 years now, but they were still the new kids. Other species had been around for millions of years. They treated humans like curious children who had just learned to speak. Commander Park Minho walked into Hana's office looking frustrated. He dropped a data tablet on her desk with a loud thud. The Zephyrian Council said no again. They thanked us for our cute offer to help, but told us to leave the real work to the grown-ups. Hana picked up the tablet and read the message. The Zephyrians were one of the oldest and most powerful groups in the galaxy. They controlled 12 different species and had technology that seemed like magic to human eyes. If they said something was handled, most people believed them, but Hana wasn't most people. She was a xenoarchaeologist, someone who studied the ruins and artifacts left behind by dead alien civilizations. She had spent the last 5 years digging through ancient sites, on distant worlds, and what she had found made her stomach turn. "Minho, look at this," she said, pulling up her research on the computer. The screen showed photographs of stone tablets covered in strange symbols. These are from the ruins on Kepler 442b. The civilization that built them died out 2.7 million years ago. Minho leaned over her shoulder to get a better look. "What do they say?" "They're warnings," Hana replied, her voice quiet. "Warnings about something they called the Devourers, mechanical beings that come from the dark spaces between galaxies. They don't just destroy planets, Minho. They consume them. Everything. The matter, the energy, even the thoughts of every living thing." The commander frowned. "But that was almost 3 million years ago. What does it have to do with now?" Hana pulled up another screen showing similar tablets from different worlds. "Because I found the same warnings on 17 different planets, all destroyed exactly 2.7 million years apart. It's a cycle, Minho. The Devourers come, they consume everything, then they disappear into dark space until it's time for the next feeding." The communication system suddenly crackled to life. "This is Outpost Vega 7 to Luna Station. We've lost contact with the Rigel system. Their quantum beacon just stopped." Hana and Minho looked at each other. 3 systems had gone dark in the past week. First Altair, then Procyon, now Rigel. Each time the same thing happened. The constant stream of communication from those worlds simply ended, like someone had turned off a switch. "It's starting," Hana whispered. The next few hours brought more bad news. The Zephyrian fleets had been mobilized, but they were treating this like any other military problem. They sent their massive warships to the edge of the galaxy, confident that their superior weapons would handle whatever was coming. Dr. Kang Taehyun burst into the office, his face pale. He worked with the Deep Space Observation Team, monitoring the galaxy's outer edges. "We've got visual confirmation," he said, his voice shaking. "The Devourers are real and they're heading this way." On his data pad was an image that would haunt Hana's dreams for years to come. The Devourers looked like a swarm of mechanical insects, each one the size of a city. They moved through space in perfect formation, consuming asteroids, planets, and even stars as they went. Behind them was nothing but empty space, as if entire solar systems had been erased from existence. "How many?" Minho asked. "Billions," Taehyun replied. "Maybe trillions. They're stripping entire star systems bare, and they're getting stronger as they go. Every world they consume makes them smarter, more adaptable." Hana thought about the ancient tablets and their warnings. The civilizations that left those warnings, they tried to fight too. They had powerful weapons, advanced technology, probably just like the Zephyrians. "What happened to them?" Minho asked, though he already knew the answer. "They lost," Hana said simply. "All of them. Every single advanced civilization in the galaxy was wiped out. The only reason we know about them is because they managed to hide some warnings before the end." The communication system activated again. This time it was Admiral Lee Ji-won from Earth's Defense Fleet. All personnel, this is Admiral Lee. We've received word from the Zephyrian Council. They're ordering all lesser species to evacuate to the Galactic Core. They say they'll handle the Devourer threat. Hana looked at the ancient tablets on her screen, then at the image of the approaching swarm. She had a terrible feeling that history was about to repeat itself, and humanity was about to learn why the stars had gone silent before. Admiral Lee Ji-won stood in the command center of Earth's main defense station, watching dots disappear from the galaxy map. Each dot represented a star system with billions of lives. In the past 3 days, 47 dots had simply vanished. The big screen showed the latest battle between the Zephyrian fleet and the Devourers. The alien warships were huge, some as large as Earth's moon. Their energy weapons could destroy planets with a single shot. But when they fired at the Devourers, something strange happened. The mechanical swarm just absorbed the energy and kept coming. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship," said Lieutenant Cho Yuna from her station. Her voice was tight with worry. "Put it through," Ji-won ordered. The screen filled with the image of Commander Zethkar, the Zephyrian fleet leader. His blue skin was darker than usual, a sign of stress in his species. "Admiral Lee, our weapons are useless. The Devourers adapt to everything we throw at them. Energy weapons make them stronger. Kinetic weapons just bounce off their hulls." Ji-won felt his heart sink. "What about your plasma cannons? Your gravity bombs?" "Nothing works," Zethkar replied. "They learn from every attack. After the first shot, they become immune. We're falling back to the core systems." The transmission cut out. On the tactical display, the Zephyrian fleet markers began moving away from the battle zone. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was retreating. Dr. Kang Taehyun ran into the command center, his arms full of data tablets. "Admiral, we've been studying the refugee reports. The survivors all say the same thing. The Devourers don't just destroy planets, they do something worse." "What? Could be worse than destroying planets?" Ji-won asked. Taehyun set down his tablets and pulled up a recording. It was a message from a Centauri research station transmitted just before they went dark. The alien scientist on screen was panicking. "They're not killing us," the alien said in broken universal. "They're taking us. Our minds, our thoughts, our memories, I can feel them in my head. They're learning everything we know, everything we've ever discovered. They're becoming us while they destroy us." The recording ended with the scientist screaming, then silence. "They absorb consciousness," Taehyun explained. "Every mind they encounter becomes part of their collective intelligence. That's why they're getting smarter with each victory. They're not just consuming matter and energy. They're consuming knowledge, experience, culture, everything that makes a species who they are." Ji-won looked at the star map. Half the galaxy was already dark. The quantum communication network that connected all civilizations was breaking apart as the relay stations were consumed. What had once been a constant stream of chatter from thousands of worlds was becoming scattered whispers from the survivors. "Sir, incoming refugee ships," reported Officer Park Sung-min. "Looks like evacuees from the Vega system." The refugee ships were a mix of different alien designs, all damaged and running on emergency power. When they docked with the station, the survivors stumbled out looking like they had seen the end of the world. Which, Ji-won realized, they had. A Altarian captain approached him. Her people looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin. "Admiral, you must listen to me. The Devourers, they're not random, they have a plan." "What do you mean?" Ji-won asked. "They target the most advanced civilizations first," she said. "The ones with the strongest technology, the largest populations, the most knowledge to absorb. They're working their way down a list." Dr. Kim Hana appeared at Ji-won's side. She had been studying the attack patterns for days. "She's right. Look at the order of the attacks. First the Zephyrians' core worlds, then the Centauri Federation, then the Vegan Alliance. They're going after the biggest prizes first, which means," Ji-won asked, though he was starting to understand. "Humans are at the bottom of the list," Hana said quietly. "We're the youngest species, the least advanced. The smallest population. They're saving us for dessert. The Altarian captain nodded. That's why some of us came here instead of fleeing to the core. If anyone has a chance to find a solution, it's the species they underestimate. Jiwan looked around the command center. His people were scared but determined. They had always been the underdogs in galactic politics. While the ancient civilizations debated and made plans, humans had learned to be creative, to think outside the box. How long do we have? And he asked. Taehyun checked his calculations. At their current rate of consumption, they'll reach the inner systems in 2 weeks. Earth will be last. The Admiral nodded slowly. 2 weeks to find a solution that had escaped every advanced civilization in the galaxy. 2 weeks to save not just humanity, but everyone left alive. Get me Dr. Kim and her archaeology team, Jiwan ordered. If anyone can figure out what the ancients missed, it's her. As the staff ran to carry out his orders, Jiwan stared at the star map. The galaxy was going dark, one system at a time. But sometimes, he thought, the last light burning was the most important one of all. The quantum networks had been silent for 6 days. Earth's radio telescopes could only pick up scattered emergency signals from the few surviving outposts. Dr. Kim Hana sat in her underground laboratory, surrounded by ancient alien tablets and computer screens showing impossible equations. She had not slept in 36 hours. The silence protocol, she whispered to herself, running her finger along the carved symbols on the oldest tablet. The stone was from a planet that had died 3 million years ago, but its message was crystal clear. They didn't try to fight. The Devourers with weapons. They tried something else. Professor Yoon Sung-ho looked up from his desk where mathematical formulas covered every inch of paper. His hair was messy and his eyes were red from exhaustion. Hana, these calculations are insane. What you're suggesting would require more energy than our sun produces in a year. Dr. Oh Minji joined them, carrying a fresh pot of coffee and looking just as tired. She was the smartest physicist on Earth, but even she was struggling with the ancient alien science. I've run the numbers 50 times. We would need to convert at least 3 moons into pure energy. And even then, there's no guarantee it would work. The tablet showed pictures of what the ancient civilization had tried to do. They called it stepping outside the game board. Instead of playing by the Devourer's rules, they had tried to remove themselves from the game entirely. Space-time manipulation, Hana explained, pointing to the symbols. They built massive gravitational machines around their star system. When the Devourers arrived, they activated the machines and... She paused, trying to find the right words. They folded space around themselves, created a pocket dimension where their solar system could hide. General Nam Ji-hoon entered the laboratory, his military uniform dirty from inspecting the construction sites around Earth. Did it work? Hana looked at the empty space where that civilization used to exist. We don't know. Their star system completely disappeared from our universe. No trace, no signal, nothing. Either they succeeded and are still hiding somewhere, or they destroyed themselves trying. The general sat down heavily in a chair. How long do we have? The Devourer swarm will reach our solar system in 72 hours, replied Dr. Kang Tae-hyun as he entered the room with the latest tracking data. They've consumed everything between here and the galactic core. We're the last inhabited system left. Sung-ho stood up and walked to the whiteboard covered with equations. If we're really going to try this, we need to start now. The gravitational manipulators have to be positioned perfectly around the entire solar system. Any mistake and we could create a black hole that swallows Earth. What exactly are we trying to do? Ji-hoon asked. Minji pulled up a computer simulation. We're going to tear a hole in reality itself. Create a bubble of altered space-time around our solar system. Inside the bubble, physics will work differently. We'll be invisible to the outside universe, completely undetectable. But we'll also be trapped, Hana added. Once we activate the silence protocol, we might never be able to get back to normal space. We could be stuck in our pocket dimension forever. The room fell quiet as everyone thought about what that meant. No more contact with other civilizations. No more exploring the galaxy. Humanity would be alone until the end of time. The alternative is extinction, Ji-hoon said finally. At least this way, our species survives. Over the next 60 hours, the entire planet worked together like never before. Every space station, every orbital platform, every available ship was converted into a gravitational manipulator. The machines were huge, each one the size of a city block. They surrounded the solar system in a perfect sphere, powered by the complete matter conversion of 3 moons. Engineer Lee Da-yeon coordinated the construction from the main orbital platform. She had not left her post in 2 days, surviving on coffee and determination. The energy requirements are staggering, she reported to the team. We're talking about converting Phobos, Deimos, and Europa into pure energy. That's enough power to run Earth's entire civilization for 10,000 years. Captain Bae Suman watched the progress from her command ship positioned near Jupiter. Through her telescope, she could see the Devourers swarm approaching like a black cloud. They moved in perfect formation, billions of mechanical units that had already consumed half the galaxy. They're beautiful in a terrible way, she told her crew. Like watching a storm that could destroy the world. Dr. Kim Hana made final adjustments to the control systems. The ancient tablets had given them the basic idea, but humanity had to figure out the details themselves. One mistake and Earth would be crushed out of existence. All stations report. Ready? Came the voice of Admiral Lee Ji-won over the communication system. We are go for silence protocol activation in T-minus 60 minutes. Hana looked around the control room at her exhausted colleagues. They had worked a miracle in 3 days, combining ancient alien knowledge with human engineering. But would it be enough? If this works, she said quietly, we'll be the first species in galactic history to escape the Devourers. And if it doesn't work? Asked Sung-ho. Hana looked at the approaching swarm on the monitor. Then we'll die trying something no one else was brave enough to attempt. Captain Bae Suman pressed her face against the viewing window of the command station. The Devourer swarm filled the space where stars used to be. They looked like a massive cloud of metal insects, each one bigger than a city. There were so many of them that they blocked out the light from distant galaxies. Final systems check complete, announced engineer Lee Da-yeon from her control panel. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she typed. All gravitational manipulators are charged and ready. The energy from the 3 moons has been converted successfully. Around the solar system, the huge machines floated in perfect position. Each one was a miracle of engineering, built in just 3 days using technology that humanity barely understood. They hummed with power that could tear apart planets. Dr. Kim Hana sat at the master control station, her finger hovering over the activation button. The ancient alien tablets lay open beside her, their warnings and instructions translated into simple human language. She had studied them for years, but now she wondered if she had missed something important. All stations, this is Dr. Kim. She spoke into the communication system. In 60 seconds, we will activate the silence protocol. I want everyone to understand what this means. We don't know if we'll ever be able to return to normal space. We don't know if our families will ever see the stars again. But we know that, if we do nothing, humanity ends today. On Earth below, people gathered in their homes, schools, and workplaces to listen. Children held their parents' hands. Old people remembered when humanity first reached for the stars. Everyone waited for the countdown that would change everything. General Nam Ji-hoon stood beside the main control panel watching the tactical display. The Devourers were now just 6 hours away from Earth. Their sensors were probably already detecting the gravitational machines, but they kept coming anyway. Nothing had ever stopped them before. 30 seconds, Hana announced. Around the solar system, the gravitational manipulators began to glow. The energy they contained was unimaginable, enough to power entire civilizations. Admiral Lee Ji-won watched from Earth's main defense station. His military training told him to fight, to face the enemy with weapons and courage. But sometimes, he had learned the greatest courage was knowing when to run and hide. 10 seconds, Hana called out. 9, 8, 7. Professor Yoon Sung-ho closed his eyes and whispered a prayer to whatever gods might be listening. The mathematics were perfect, but mathematics could not account for miracles or disasters. 6, 5, 4. Dr. Ominji gripped her chair as the gravitational manipulators reached maximum power. The energy readings were off the charts. Space itself was beginning to bend around the solar system. 3, 2, 1. Activate. Hana pressed the button. The universe exploded into light. Every gravitational manipulator fired at the same moment, their combined force tearing through the fabric of space and time. Reality twisted and folded like paper being crumpled in a giant's hand. The laws of physics screamed as they were stretched beyond their limits. For a moment that lasted forever, the solar system existed in all dimensions and none. Earth was everywhere and nowhere. The sun burned with the light of a million stars and then went completely dark. Time moved backward and forward and sideways all at once. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. From the Devourer's perspective, something impossible happened. One moment they were approaching a yellow star with 9 planets, the next moment there was nothing there, not empty space, not even darkness. Just nothing. Their sensors could not detect anything where the solar system used to be. The mechanical swarm slowed, then stopped completely. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered something they could not understand. Their collective intelligence, made up of billions of absorbed minds from across the galaxy, struggled to process what had happened. Where was the star? Where were the planets? Where were the humans they had come to consume? Inside the pocket dimension, Captain Bae Suman slowly opened her eyes. She was still alive, still breathing. The command station was intact, but everything outside the windows looked strange. The stars were gone, replaced by swirling colors that had no names. "Status report," she called out weakly. "We're alive," reported Lee Da-yun, her voice filled with wonder. "The gravitational manipulators worked. We're in some kind of bubble of altered space-time." Dr. Kim Hana checked her instruments. According to the readings, they were still in the same location but also completely separate from the normal universe. They could see out through special sensors, but nothing could see in. "The Devourers," Hana whispered. "Can we see them?" The main screen activated, showing the space where Earth used to be visible. The Devourer swarm was there, but they looked confused. They moved in circles, their sensors sweeping back and forth, searching for something they could not find. "They can't see us," General Nam Ji-hoon said with amazement. "We're invisible to them." Admiral Lee Ji-won's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "All stations, this is Admiral Lee. The silence protocol appears to have worked. We are hidden from the Devourers, but we are also cut off from the rest of the universe." Hana looked at the ancient tablets one more time. The civilization that had tried this before had also vanished completely. But now she wondered if they had really died, or if they were still out there somewhere, hidden in their own pocket of reality. Humanity had gambled everything on one desperate plan. Now they would learn if they had saved themselves or simply chosen a different way to disappear forever. 10 years had passed since Earth disappeared from the universe. Dr. Park Hye-jin looked older now, with gray streaks in her black hair and lines around her eyes from staring at computer screens. She had become the director of dimensional research, studying how their pocket universe worked and whether they could ever return home. The twisted space around Earth had become familiar, almost comfortable. The swirling colors outside their windows had replaced the stars, and children born after the silence protocol knew no other sky. Humanity had adapted, as they always did. "Director Park, you need to see this," called out Research Assistant Kim Jae-min from his monitoring station. He was young, born just 2 years before the protocol, and had spent his whole life studying the strange physics of their hidden world. Hye-jin walked over to his desk and looked at the long-range sensors. These special instruments could peek through their dimensional bubble and observe the normal universe outside. What she saw made her heart race. "The Devourer Collective is falling apart," she whispered. On the screen, the mechanical swarm that had consumed half the galaxy was destroying itself. The individual units were fighting each other, tearing apart their own kind with the same efficiency they had once used to consume planets. Dr. Yoon Sung-ho, now much older but still sharp, joined them at the monitoring station. What's happening? To them? They're starving, Hijin explained, pulling up her analysis. The Devourers don't just consume matter and energy. They absorb the consciousness of every living thing they encounter. That shared intelligence is what holds them together as a collective. Jamin nodded excitedly. But there's nothing left for them to absorb. They consumed every advanced civilization in the galaxy, and now they have no new minds to add to their collective. So they're breaking down, Sung-Ho realized. Without fresh consciousness to absorb, their shared intelligence is fragmenting into competing groups. Through their hidden sensors, they watched as the Devourer swarm split into smaller factions. Each group began attacking the others, trying to absorb their consciousness and maintain their own collective intelligence. It was a feeding frenzy that would only end when nothing was left. President Cho Jung-soo arrived at the research station with a small group of advisors. She had been elected 5 years ago on a platform of finding a way back to normal space. Now, for the first time, that goal seemed possible. How long before they're completely gone, she asked. Hyejin studied the data. At this rate, maybe 3 more years. They're consuming themselves faster than they ever consumed us. And then what? Asked General Nam Ji-hoon, who, despite his age, still served as Earth's defense coordinator. Do we try to return to normal space? The question hung in the air like a weight. For 10 years, humanity had lived in isolation, completely cut off from the rest of the universe. They had built new cities, developed new technologies based on their altered physics, and created a society unlike anything that had existed before. But they had also lost contact with every other living thing in the galaxy. They didn't know if any other species had survived. They didn't know if the quantum communication networks could ever be rebuilt. They were alone in a way that no species had ever been alone before. We start with small tests, Hyejin suggested. We can partially phase back into normal space-time, just enough to send out signals and see if anyone responds. The process took another 7 years. Slowly, carefully, humanity began to emerge from their dimensional hiding place. First, they sent out tiny probes that could exist in both dimensions. Then they established limited communication arrays that could reach into normal space. The galaxy they found was nothing like the one they had left behind. Most star systems were empty, stripped bare by the Devourers before their collective collapsed. But life, as always, found a way. On scattered worlds, small groups of survivors were slowly crawling out of hiding places. Some had hidden in deep underground cities. Others had fled to the edges of the galaxy where the Devourers never reached. When Earth's first quantum message reached these survivors, the response was immediate and overwhelming. This is Kepler Station calling Earth. We thought you were dead. We thought everyone was dead. Earth, this is New Centauri colony. How did you survive? The Devourers consumed your entire system. Earth, please respond. This is amazing. How are you still alive? Dr. Kim Hana, now ancient but still working in her laboratory, listened to the flood of messages with tears in her eyes. She had spent the last 17 years wondering if humanity's sacrifice had been worth it. Now she had her answer. But the EU galaxy was different now. The constant chatter of thousands of civilizations was gone forever. The survivors spoke in whispers, careful not to attract attention to themselves. They had learned the hard way that sometimes silence was the only defense against the dark. Earth became the quiet guardian at the center of it all. The species that had once been dismissed as young and weak had become the teachers of a new galactic civilization. They showed the survivors how to hide, how to be quiet, how to survive in a universe that had almost died. The stars didn't go silent because they were destroyed. They went silent because they learned the value of silence itself. And humanity, the youngest species in the galaxy, had taught them that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from fighting, but from knowing when to step into the darkness and wait for the light to return.